It's the Let's Call for Plastisol, competition barely. Come discuss the field with your host Christy and Jeremy. Have a drink, kick your feet up, watch the ink, and get ready for a motion. Notice hearing what you think. Shout out, mine are color blue, ridge, they're the best. Cord Kim hold it down like the automatic press. BMI, they've been sticking with our team. Hey, you know that they are go-to for whenever that we need. Last call, Plastisol, last call. The last call, Plastisol, last call. Last call, Plastisol, last call. The last call, Plastisol.
Thank you.
No problem.
I got free lunch today.
No problem. The lady?
Who gave it to you?
I was walking by just like two random people. Like there were these people sitting
This
down.
is good. Hold the microphone up to your mouth.
Okay. I was just walking by and I was looking to try and figure out something to eat, and there were these random people sitting on the ground, and they had pizzas.
The story.
You got the vagrant.
No, I didn't. I was like, oh, where'd you get the pizzas? And they were like, oh, it's right across from here. And I was like, okay, great, thanks. And I walked away, and then like it must have been 10, 15 minutes later, I'm like walking around. I'm almost to where like the Papa John's is, and they come out around the corner and they're like, hey, we've been looking for you.
What?
We had an extra pizza. Do you want it? And the guy's like, I swear, like I haven't touched it. He's like, I just ordered 2. It's too much. I don't need it. I was like, sure.
Are you seeing things now?
No, I mean,
Okay.
it was. I mean,
Pizza was good.
No, it wasn't great, but I mean, but it
Papa
wasn't.
John's,
It wasn't
yeah.
$15.
It's not laced with LSD or anything.
It was free, yeah.
pizza.
So
That's
do you
kind,
use these? Hey guys, welcome to Last Call for Plastisol.
I'm Christy,
I'm Jeremy.
and this is Kyle.
Kyle,
This is Kyle Robinson.
have we been recording?
Yes,
Yeah,
the whole
okay.
time.
Okay, great.
It's all good. So
This is our
we're at the Printing United Expo in Las Vegas, and talking with Kyle here, and wondering, we're talking about free lunch, but wondering, do you have dinner plans? Like, do you guys do you come here with the attention of like appointments and doing that kind of stuff? Or
I kind of I decided to come on a whim.
Okay.
I hadn't really planned on it, and then the
and
stars.
even closer.
Sorry, okay,
it's
yeah.
like
How's
even
that?
uncomfortable.
Like this?
Yes.
yeah,
Like up in my mustache.
Yes.
No, so I didn't have a lot of plans. I kind of decided to come last minute, and so yeah, like last night I got here, and then I went to the they had like the
Okay.
thing at the golf.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Okay, well they had
Yeah.
a golf
We
thing.
weren't here.
Well, anyway, it wasn't very fun, and so
We can cut that part out.
He loved it.
No, I'm just
Kyle
kidding.
loved it.
I
No,
ordered a
it's
beer,
very
and
honest.
I ordered like a Kona.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And,
that's
then,
a thing.
and then they gave me like some weird IPA. Anyway, I drank it and it was fine. But
Okay.
yeah.
Where was this at? Top-Golf or something?
It was called Atomic Golf.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Is that a
Basically-
simulator or?
No, it was like a Top Golf.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, all the bays were taken. So I drank a beer and I talked to some people. But
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Okay. So where are you from?
so I'm originally from Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Yep. Okay.
That's where I grew up, and then I've lived in Kentucky, kind of eastern Kentucky, right where Ohio, West Virginia, Kentucky come together. I've lived there for about 18, 20 years. I met my wife in Hawaii.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
That's
and
very cool.
Yeah, that's actually where I learned to screen print, was in Hawaii. I was in the fine arts program there, and failing out of my painting class.
The University of
University of Hawaii.
The,
Yep.
the rainbows?
Yep. Manoa. Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, and so I was kind of butting heads with my one of my painting instructors, and they had like a screen printing department, and so anyway, I got in that and just kind of really loved the medium, fell in love with it, and
Cool.
yeah.
So, where's your shop at in Kentucky?
So we're in Flatwoods, Kentucky.
Okay.
Home of Billy Ray Cyrus.
Oh, nice.
Birthplace.
And Miley.
Yeah,
What is
no,
your
Miley.
favorite-
So
Maybe
Miley
not.
was actually born in Nashville,
Okay.
but Billy Ray and his brothers, they all grew up in Flatwoods.
Okay.
Do you have a favorite Billy Ray Cyrus song?
I mean, I probably only know "Achy Breaky Heart."
Okay, me too. I'm
not
glad
really-
you didn't say another song
Yeah,
because I couldn't
I'm
say.
not
You
really.
could have made something up.
I'm not really a fan, but anyway,
Yeah.
that's. But
I
yeah,
hear you.
so near Ashland is like the larger town there, but it's a pretty
Okay.
small town. Our shop is it was originally the roller skating rink.
Yep.
That's what it was built as.
Yep.
And so we have old people that'll still come in. They'll be like, "Oh, this used to be the roller rink, and I had my first kiss here." And
yeah. Does it still look like a roller rink or no?
No. So when we bought it, it had been vacant for like 8 years. It was really rough. So we had to do a ton of work on it. And the last thing it had been like a sign shop.
Okay.
And apparently the guy that owned it was like running drugs and guns and like it was like a chop shop. So we have
it's got a history.
So we have we have this garage door, like a big it's a ramp that you can actually like drive up and drive like vehicles into the building.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they were kind of using it as like a chop shop in the back.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So anyway.
Well, if screen printing doesn't work out.
Yeah. Well, and he died of a heart attack.
Set up for it.
Yeah. I guess the guy died of a heart attack. Like some of the freight drivers will show up and they're like, "Oh yeah, we had like a special knock we had to use on the door."
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So anyway.
This is the best story we've ever had on the
I was
going
to say there needs to be some type of taking advantage of that. Like
Yeah.
Like,
but
you gotta
put together a
discount with the
brand or
special
something
knock.
that's got to be like
Yeah.
the backdoor knock.
And
I think that's something else we don't want
Oh,
on a
no, don't do the
t-shirt.
backdoor knock? Okay, never mind. Anyways, that's something, never mind.
But they, so there were like remnants. So like when we moved in, like some of the old murals, like they'd painted all these like Disney murals on the wall.
Yeah.
And they all had roller skates on.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you knew it was old because it was like some of like the old like racist Disney characters that like don't exist anymore. So, and it was like
The non-politically correct ones,
correct.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, what kind of equipment do you guys run?
So we run. We have two 10-color autos. They're RPMs.
Bet you never heard of those.
I have.
Which
haven't,
most
actually.
people have never heard of. And
Yeah.
I tell people the best way to describe it, you guys run Anatol. So
We
you're
do.
familiar. So it's like if Anatol and M&R had a bastard child,
Okay.
it would
Yeah.
be an RPM.
And actually, that's what Metro runs too.
Okay. Compressed air.
Yes. So like
Okay.
our first press, it's air driven, and then so it uses a little bit more air, and then our second press is a servo. Is that what they call it?
Yeah,
servos,
servo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. How do you like having two different ones?
We really, honestly, like at one point we were running both presses like pretty much all the time, and now we just kind of flop back and forth. So I would say the favored press is definitely the servo press.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we met at Printing United last year, I think. Yeah.
Yep.
At one
At one of the after parties.
yeah,
I
at
think.
one of the after
did
parties.
I meet you?
You were drinking.
Yeah.
Well, surprise.
Yeah. You were like right at the point of being reinvigorated.
Yeah. I get
And so
that way.
like it was either time to go or time to go out, and you chose go out.
Yes.
And so that
Okay.
But that's when. But we met right before then, and then with Marcotte and
Yep.
a bunch of people sitting at the table, and then went to that blues club. But
That was
you
fun.
started to tell me all these stories about the things you were doing, the solar panels, that was fascinating. I'm like, oh, we could talk about that. And then like as I talked to you in Nashville, it was like, oh, we're doing. Well, after that we talked. It was like I'm doing employee like incentive pay and not incentive pay, but
Like a
more
profit
of
share?
like a
Uh-huh.
profit
Yep.
share, and then it was, hey, I'm doing DTF, like multiple DTF machines, and I'm like, there's so many things we could talk about, and then I realized I heard you on the DTF podcast, and you're like, I only got like 4 employees or something, like really minimal employees, and I'm like. There's so many fascinating things that you're doing. I think like getting that information out there in different ways is
Yeah.
good. I mean, like
So-
what intriguing like about those subjects did you?
Well, all of it is
Yeah.
very intriguing to me, but particularly that I haven't heard a lot of is people having minimal employees. And
Yeah.
over the year we've had, I would like to know more.
Yeah.
So,
Just a
yeah.
background story, Kyle.
I think the background story to that would just be we've invested heavily into automation.
Okay.
And so like pretty much each step along the way of whether it be a piece of equipment or systems that we've automated, we've basically been able to reduce the number of people that we need. But then we've also been able to pay the people that we have better.
Yeah.
And so that's really been the goal. And so I think at one point we got up to around 13 people, and we are very much like in the scenario which I think a lot of shops in our industry get into. It was like high growth mode. It was just all focused on revenue and just like bringing in as much work as you can. We would get desperate for people, and then we just like we wouldn't like vet them, and we just bring
Yeah.
a person in, and so you had
They
like a
wouldn't
lot
last
of people.
very long.
Yeah, so you have like a lot of people running around, a lack of good systems, a lack of automation, and so you need a ton of people to do the same amount of. So like we're really doing now, we're doing the probably more output with less people. And so,
where did you start? I guess in that process to just start to eliminate, or was it just like I'm sick of hiring people?
Yeah, I mean, I think
are trash.
I think probably what happened. I think it was like around. Trying to think. So we started in 2009. We started in the garage. Kind of like a lot of people moved out of the garage. Again, like going back to like I started out thinking I wanted to do my own fine art and like a my own T-shirt line. Yeah. Moved out of the garage, got into like a downtown retail storefront. That sort of legitimized the business, gave us visibility. We started growing, started hiring some more people, made the transition into the current space. Right. And then as we started to grow, it really became this thing like, we would need somebody, so we'd go and hire somebody. And it got to the point where it was crazy all the time.
Yes.
And our accounts, like receivable was out of control, like our cash flow was struggling. And I hired like a local business coach, and he put us in touch with a guy who was a fractional CFO.
Okay.
And so I started working with the business coach and the fractional CFO, and that really was like the turning point, because we really kind of started to take a hard look at like, where are we hemorrhaging money, where are we making our money. We also got in with Mark Coudre's program about that time. Yep. So we did the Catalyst program. So there was, I would say, like between those three, a lot of what Mark was talking about and what the business coach was recommending. Then we had the fractional CFO to really kind of help us implement a lot of that.
Okay. Yep.
And so we really got like, we got our accounts receivable under control. We changed our policies, payment up front. We took a lot of these like kind of baby steps and worked towards it. Really got our finances in place, and then we never had to do like some big layoff or firing, but it just turned into this thing that like as we like for example. We had like an identity crisis, like where like I love like art and marketing, and so like I kept hiring designers, and like our customers loved us because we could do all of this custom design, but nobody wanted to pay us for design. Right. So like the business coach was like, look, this is where your business is like bleeding money out of this department because you have all these people, you have all this overhead, and you're not charging enough. Right, and I think you've seen that in our industry. Like some of these bigger shops, like they've actually like split the art department, and then they like almost become their own business or own their own firm.
Yeah.
And so we just kind of got away from that, where it was like, okay, we just can't spend the time and the resources on this design work when that customer is going to turn around and order 50 shirts.
Yeah.
Right. So we discovered some of those types of things. We invested in auto reclaim, auto coder, CTS. So like the screen department was huge. Right, like you can cut out a lot of labor and time there. So slowly but surely we've kind of like started downsizing, and then like when COVID hit, it gave us an opportunity to look at our clients and work the 80-20 of like, okay, so like who are the top 20% that results in 80% of our profit?
Yep.
Who are the 80% that take up the majority of our time we don't make any money on? And we got like super ruthless, and we just like started firing off clients. And then that freed up a bunch of time to where then we could use that time to then go and seek out new clients who were within that niche market that we wanted to be servicing.
Better fit.
Yeah. So it was a combination of that kind of stuff, and then as the profitability. So what we started to see is like our revenue actually took a dip, but our profitability went way up.
Yeah.
We had less people, so we were able to pay them better, and then we started working on the things like the profit sharing.
Yeah.
So this is really interesting to me because I've been listening to a lot of other industry podcasts lately, and a lot of people are pointing out that revenue doesn't equal profit, like more revenue doesn't equal more profit. And it's saying a lot of screen printing shops between that 1 and 1.5 million are like the most profitable. But once you get over that, unless you're doing the right things, you're kind of going to be on the struggle bus for a little while.
Well, and when I think it gets difficult too, because it's like I was having a conversation with someone earlier. It's like we're still small enough and lean enough that it's like if we have a slow, day or a couple of days or whatever, like we have a deal where it's like I just call my guys off. I'm like, it doesn't make sense for us to run production today. They know they're going to get paid half time.
Okay.
So it's not like they're losing, and then they have their profit share at the end of the quarter.
Yeah.
So the thing that's so great about the profit share is that like it really builds in, a sense of responsibility and accountability among the team. It's like no one's milking the clock because they know that if they're like, if we continue to run lean and profitable, they're going to see that at the end of the quarter.
Yep.
So it just, but again, like if you're, once you start getting a lot of employees, like you can't do that, right? Like you'll hear in some of these podcasts, they're like, oh, I loved it. Like we could all go out to lunch and I could buy everybody lunch. But when you have 30 people, it's like buying everybody lunch gets like insanely expensive.
It does. And we've even talked about that because, at 15, it is expensive. It's expensive for Christmas bonuses. It's expensive for lunches.
We were celebrating birthdays and we were buying food for every birthday.
Right.
When you get to 15 employees, that's a lot of food.
It's a lot of birthdays, too.
A lot of birthdays. So I was like, Jill kind of switched it and was like, we'll just do dessert.
Well, yeah.
What kind of dessert do you want?
Yeah,
Donuts,
and I think a lot of it's like having like honest conversations, too, because like I remember that like we got in the same way, and it was like we were constantly having meals to the point where it turned into this thing where it almost became like expected.
Yeah.
And then like people weren't appreciating it.
Yeah.
And so we kind of like, I just kind of told them, I was, and again, it goes back to the profit share. I said, well, look, guys, like, listen, so when we spend money on these things, it results in less profit for the business, which means at the end of the quarter, you guys are going to make less money. So like, is this how you want to spend the money?
Yeah.
And so I think the profit share is huge because it really does, like, again, it's like, it kind of puts it back on them. It's like, I don't care to do this. Do you guys want to do this? And then so like, we still like, I typically get lunch on Fridays. You got to balance that with maintaining culture. So like, you just don't want to like completely nix it, but like, so we still do fun stuff. And then a lot of times, like with the birthdays, like I just give like a check to whoever's birthday it is.
Yeah.
Because they would rather get a $50 check than pizza.
That's true. Yeah. That's true. It's like, you almost that, I think we still do both. we do
a gift card, but we just do dessert.
Yeah.
But then
for everybody to celebrate, but that's a culture thing for us.
But we do like a quarterly lunch and stuff. We did stop doing the birthday lunches, but a quarterly lunch to build just morale or, pizza and puppies or crap like that. We do all that stuff.
So where are you at right now as far as number of employees and what are they doing?
So we have 4 main people in production. We just hired a designer who's on site, and he's actually been spending a lot of his time printing DTF and heat pressing and other things outside of artwork.
Okay. Makes
so
sense.
we're actually, I was having a conversation with him the other day, like where we hired him to be a graphic designer. I don't want him to get burnt out feeling like he's not doing what we hired him to do.
Right. Yeah.
So we're looking at bringing on another production person. We have another designer who's off-site, and then we have my sister-in-law who we hired a couple of years ago, and she's been huge and like integral to the business. She basically, she's our main accounts manager, but she's also like our COO, and she does all of our accounts receivable, all of our accounts payable. So she really kind of helps me. She's like taken a load off of me to really focus on a lot of like the kind of the back of house nothing like production because she's off-site as well.
Okay.
So she's remote. And that which works really well because so like I kind of focus on like a lot of the day-to-day operations and oversee that, and then she's able to oversee a lot of the behind-the-scenes stuff.
Yeah. So a couple of things that are interesting to me. You mentioned accounts receivable a couple of times. Why do you guys have accounts receivable? Or do you just have certain client base that's what they expect? Or is it like in your regional area that's what's expected?
The majority of our clients are going to be payment up front, but like we work with a couple of like really large hospitals. Okay. And it's just, I mean, if you want to do business with them, it's net 30.
Okay.
So it just, we have to manage that. Like one of the things that's been really interesting is that over the years, like so a couple of these hospitals that we work with, we've taken on a ton of the fulfillment, so we individually fold, bag, ship, and fulfill. And so, like right now, we're doing, for both hospitals, we're doing Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Yeah. And so, you're talking, they're doing sweatshirts, T-shirts, so it's a lot of like, we've got a lot out in accounts receivable because we not only do we have the cost of good, but then we have, I don't know, probably about 10,000 in postage.
Yeah.
For both of those.
DTF.
Yeah. So, I mean, so like our accounts receivable in this month, I think we were probably like somewhere around like 35,000. We went up to like 125 to 150,000 like in like 2 weeks.
That can hurt bad.
Yeah. So I mean, so that's the whole thing is you really have to manage that and manage your cash flow. We have like one of the things that we were able to do getting our finances under control is that we don't have a line of credit, but we were using the profit first model.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And so we have like that what do they call it, the vault account.
Yeah,
I guess,
you have you divide up the bank account into multiple accounts and then separate banks and all that stuff. So you're holding
right. So we have all of the different bank accounts, and what we've started doing right now, because interest rates are so good, is like we were like really following the profit first model like to a T.
Yeah.
But where we had money in each account, but like over the last year and a half, we've actually just been putting all of it into a money market account.
Yeah, we started doing that ourselves
because I'm gaining $500-600 a month in interest every just by having the money sit there. But like so most of the year we don't need to tap into that. But like then when we have seasonally, like in our fall where we're so busy. Hey.
Do you work with Kevin too?
We don't, but we should probably should.
We work with them.
Yeah, he's great. But so anyway, we have this vault, and so we're able to tap into that and use it almost as like a line of credit.
Yeah, cool.
Okay, so with scaling down to 4 employees, because we kind of went through that with the merged
4 production. So you're about 6 or 7, or
no, we only have 4
total.
I mean 4 plus a designer.
Oh, the designer.
Yeah,
okay.
And then I help where it needed, like.
Yeah. Okay. Wow.
And then honestly, like, to be fair, like, so I've got a 16-year-old and a 14-year-old.
Okay.
So like when we get seasonally busy like we are now, like they'll come in the evenings or weekends and run like auto reclaim.
Yeah.
Okay.
They'll come in and they can help fold and bag and do some stuff. Yeah.
So
I've got the teenage
printers
labor
doing
too.
multiple things.
So we have like our main press operator, and that's pretty much his job. He's setting up, breaking down jobs. We have one person whose main focus is our screen department.
Okay.
We've got one person whose main focus is catching and like kind of like finishing and boxing.
Yep.
And then we have our other guy who's sort of a floater, who's pulling shirts off press, overseeing receiving and shipping.
Yeah. Okay.
And who's selling?
So we don't do a lot of selling. Like to your point, like Kevin just walked by. I mean, we've been fortunate that like I think regional, we're kind of like a big fish, small pond scenario.
Okay.
Where like in our region, we've just really got the reputation of like if you want like a serious person to work with, this is who you work with.
Yeah.
So we've been fortunate in that sense.
But
So
who
it
does
just
your
comes to
quotes?
you.
Because like during lunch at our shop, we'll have 5 salespeople out helping people in our showroom.
Right. So we closed our showroom.
Okay.
And
But these are the
yeah.
things we
So
need
you're
to
not
know.
and
taking
that's
walk-ins,
that's
yeah.
a big part of that. Like so, like with COVID again. So like our building at one point we had a showroom, again, and then next to that was like our art department that had 4 or 5 artists in it. So no longer have an art department that has our auto reclaim in it, and then next to that, which was the showroom, has all our DTF in it.
Oh,
Okay.
wow.
So like
Okay.
right now, when customers come to pick up jobs, they open the door and they're like, "Am I in the right place?" Because
it doesn't look
it's
like
just
it.
all production. And
Okay.
so we actually we've got a space right across the road right now, a retail space, and the goal is to build out the front part of that is as a showroom, but it will still be by appointment only.
Okay.
And then the back half, I'm actually building out to be like a personal print studio to get
Okay.
back into like my own fine art.
Yeah.
Okay, so when you went from, I'm really intrigued by this because we grew really quickly during the merge, and then we've been adding some automations. Jeremy made a production manager kind of thing on Monday, and then so now we need less employees. But like, how do you?
It's actually working really well. So now we can see where we.
How
we can
do
get away
you
with it.
go from having so many to like? Do you just wait for people to like kind of weed themselves out, or?
Yeah, I mean, I think we were kind of fortunate. Like we had like with the designers, like we had like one guy was like super ambitious, and like so he took another job, and then some of the people kind of.
You just don't hire after you lose them. Yeah.
But I mean, so, I don't know. I'm not great with letting people go. I can tell you that when that whole like quick to fire, slow to hire.
Yeah.
Like that's definitely true. And when I have had to let people go in the past, like it's something that I always get like sick about. And then you do it, and then it's like the person goes and they find a better job.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh
Yeah.
my God, I should have done it long. So
Yeah.
I'm a firm believer that like, things happen for a reason and everything will work out. But
I'm more in that scenario. Like, I don't like to hold on to people once everybody knows it's not a good fit. Like,
Right.
just because we feel like we have to or we owe them something. Like, I don't like that.
Well, and I think the other thing too is it's like if it's obvious to you that you don't need them, it's obvious to your staff. And
Right.
I mean, I think again to like us, especially where we have the profit share, like it just really helps our culture because like my guys, like we'll have a conversation about it. I'll be like, hey, so like it seems like we're starting to dip into overtime, and like everybody's like, working hard, and we're not keeping up. Like, do you think it's time to hire? And it's always like I have a conversation with them because they know that if we bring on another person, that's going to result in less profit and then less profit share. So it's it's kind of this like mutual like agreement that we'll have, and then we know that whoever we bring on, like there's this expectation that like, hey buddy, you better pull your weight because
these people will let you know.
I really like that. I mean, we started putting a couple people on salary. We're able to do that now. And that's kind of our goal, is to get people where they're not hourly employees or as many hourly employees.
Yep.
So we're kind of trying to go towards a better work-life balance, because if you need a day off, you don't need to worry about not getting paid or anything
and
that.
we've talked about the same thing about going salary, just because we offer a lot of paid time. So they accrue PTO.
Yeah.
They also have paid holidays, and they also have paid sick leave, which we call paid wellness. But like, the start of this year was super slow, right? And so like, again, we would do this thing where we would just comp their hours, and they would always, if we had to call them off, then they would get paid halftime.
Yeah.
So, I mean, when you step back and look at that, it's like, well, could we really just put people on salary? And I think you probably could. But I think the hourly for production staff still makes a lot of sense for us. Bridget is our only other salaried employee, and that's my sister-in-law. And she, to answer your earlier question, she's the one that's doing like all the accounts management. She's actively like, it's not that we don't do any sales, but we're not doing a lot of like outbound sales trying to bring in new leads.
Yeah.
Like, she's managing the accounts by, hey, we know that breast cancer awareness is coming up. She's reaching out, early to get the get that stuff started. And
I think where we're struggling right now is we have so much inbound, we can't keep up with it.
So many inbound sales?
Sales,
No, right.
Inbound
it's a great problem to have, but like we're just swamped.
That's the reason why I haven't worked with Kevin. I'm like, look, it's not that I absolutely know that like there's value there and like working with you. And I was like, but my concern is that if we bring you on, then the problem is going to be, we're going to be back to where we're going to need, like, we're going to have to hire 3 more people to like run that other press, like where we're back where we used to be. And again, not a bad problem to have, but until then, all of a sudden you have a seasonally slow time, and then you've got those 3 additional people who you're comping time, or and it's hard.
And that's the thing I worry about too, because I've always heard like the time to cultivate sales for your slow time is when you're busy. Like, you don't wait till you're starting to get slow, or when you are slow. So like for me, it's like, well, I don't want to let our foot off the gas when we're swamped.
Right.
For fear of that, because I have been in a screen printing shop where it is slow in January, and we're like, what are we going to do?
Honestly,
and then you
got to
nervous.
prepare for that, right?
Well, and I think the thing that's like, so we've done some things to like plan around that. Like, we know that we're going to be dead slow, like pretty much like right before Christmas and then through the New Year. So it used to be this thing where we would close the shop, and then people would have to use their PTO. And we would always, the shop would just be closed for like those 2 weeks. Well, then we found out by getting feedback from our staff that like that was like really like nervous, like everyone's like really like worried about that. Like, am I going to have enough PTO at the end of the year? So now we just do a thing where the shop closes down and we pay it.
Okay.
And we plan for that and we build that out. But again, easy to do if you're small, hard to do when you get big.
It is. It's you're almost like you know that these people depend on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
but I think the other thing that we've seen like ever since coming out of COVID is just the inconsistency. Like, it's been really hard for us. Like, we know like when we have like the big projects and the big programs coming through from like our larger clients, but a lot of the other just kind of like random stuff, like we don't do a good, like we're never in control of that. And so the seasonality of it, like that's one of the things that Bridget and I are constantly looking at, is like, how do we avoid these peaks and valleys and just like really keep it.
Yeah.
Well, I think I mean, the business coach helped us out a little bit with like trying to go ahead and plan for that, but then I felt like it didn't happen this year.
It didn't happen. I track our numbers. Like, I'm a numbers person, and like, especially sales, like if we set a sales goal and I see it, it's like, it just happens because I like
spoke it into existence.
Yeah. I'm very like individualizing things. And
no, for sure. Like
we have been within $10,000 plus or minus every month this year.
Yeah.
Well, that's
so
great.
It's very like level, and it's good for production, but
it's not without being tired.
Yeah. I'm very tired.
Yeah, and stressed and everything
when
else.
It's like,
what's it worth?
And I agree with that. Like, anytime that I see myself like getting really burnt out and like then like I see a dip in sales, and that's like I really think that it's like you can kind of manifest that to some extent, but I don't know. It's a tricky thing because it's like I was listening to like one of the Printavo podcasts the other day, and they were talking about how it's almost like as business owners, it's almost like this addiction or this
it
like
is.
kind of like
it is.
That
like,
really resonated with me too.
Yeah, and I think like that's the thing that I've been really trying to kind of focus on lately is it's just like. So I've been doing this for 15 years, and it's like I put so much of my I didn't have any kind of identity outside of the business.
Right, right, yeah.
And so it became this thing where it was like everybody knows me as the T-shirt guy, and like I'm the T-shirt, and it's like, and it wasn't good for like my personal health, like with my family. Like on the weekends, I'd just be dead tired, and I didn't have any of that creative energy left. And so it's like a tricky thing because on the one hand, it's like I like want to continue growing the business, but then it's like you kind of take a step back and you're like.
Who am I?
Right.
So
Well, I like the fact that you're being proactive now, though. Like you said, you're going to open an art space for yourself to get back into things that you fell in love with in the first place.
Well, and like
you're trying to invest in that.
Yeah. So, and I actually just gave a talk on this to like one of the local community colleges, and I'll butcher it, but there's this concept called ikigai.
Okay.
And it's like a Japanese concept, and it's the westernized kind of concept, and for like how it applies to business or your life purposes, finding, what am I passionate about? What am I good at? What does the world need? And then what are people willing to pay me for?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, like when I took a step back and looked at that, I mean, for me, that very much is like screen printing and creating art. But at the same time, it's like the business, the kind of screen printing we do for the business, like it's not like, I'm completely removed from the creative process.
Yeah, you're just printing what other people tell you to print.
And it kind of sucks the joy and the life out of it for me.
Yep.
And so
it's not fun anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
So I realized that like I really wanted to get back to having a hobby outside of work, and so Andy McDougall, are you guys familiar?
I've heard of him.
He's an industry OG.
Yeah.
Big in like the poster printing community. He was like a mentor of mine. Actually came out when I was first setting up my studio, like my print shop in my garage. And anyway, so he and I have kept touch over the years, and we were talking back and forth, and I wanted to get back into like printing fine art and printing, really big pieces of, basically big format.
Yeah.
And it's hard to find those presses anymore.
It is.
And so like there's a couple of places in Europe that still make them. And so, we were kind of looking at that, and he's like, well, maybe we could build one. Well, then come to find out, like an old business partner of his had one of these presses that had been sitting in his home-based studio for like 15, 20 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and so like Andy and this guy, they used to print for the North. They live in Canada, like British Columbia, and so they're up in the Northwest Coast area where and they printed for a lot of the Northwest Coast Indians. And so so they have these like amazing, beautiful prints. And anyway, so we worked it out to where, this guy's now 80, and he's been holding on to this equipment thinking that he's going to, still use it. But anyway, so the guy decided he'd sell it to me. So I flew out to Vancouver and then got on a seaplane to Comox Valley, which is like this little island off of Vancouver. And
you landed in the water.
What's that?
You landed in the water.
Landed in the water, yeah.
Oh,
and then,
wow.
Yeah, it was crazy. And I got to sit co-pilot. Yeah, so anyway.
It was crazy.
I mean, the trip was like, it was like really surreal.
Yeah.
But anyway, got to go to this guy's print studio, talk with these guys, listen to all of the different, and it was really kind of nice too, because like I think Andy and this guy's name's Gary, they had been business partners at one point, but they'd kind of like lost touch.
Yeah.
And so the two of them got to kind of like reconnect, and I basically got to like sit there and like listen to the two of them
That's
talk
awesome.
and like share stories. And but anyway, so we loaded it up onto the back of this U-Haul, like four of us, and this thing weighs over, probably weighs a couple thousand pounds. Drove it onto a ferry, got it across the border,
Cool.
and then drove it back
gosh.
to Kentucky. So anyway,
What a neat story.
Yeah.
and it's like I keep telling people it's like my midlife.
There's a story to it.
It's like my midlife crisis.
Yeah.
But it's giving me back. It's kind of like, bringing that passion back into the screen print for me.
I really like this, though, because it's funny that you say, like, you're just known as the shirt guy. Like, my personal Instagram handle is your friend that makes shirts. Like, it really is who we are.
That's who we are.
And then when I merged shops with Jeremy, like, we created this new shop, but it was like my identity was my old shop. So then when we merged, I had this, like, grieving process, and Jeremy did too, like, for our old identities.
The identities, yeah, the name, the everything.
And
yeah.
like, who are we now? We're this new shop, but like
We've sold it all.
But
and
it's actually helped me kind of like fix that part of me that like identified so much with the print shop, because I'm not the print shop anymore.
Yeah.
I work in a print shop and I own a print shop,
Right.
but
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's connecting. You're still connecting with what you're only connecting with the stuff you love to do instead of
Yeah.
the stuff you didn't love to do, I guess.
yeah.
Well, and I think the other thing for me too is like it's better at this point. It's almost better for me not to be there.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, like I think that my employees prefer me to not be there. And the way I kind of started looking at it is like, there's no way that I would tolerate an employee. Like we have such a small team. Like I wouldn't tolerate somebody showing up and like being in a shit mood and like, you know, and just kind of like bringing down the morale of the team.
Yeah.
So like, am I going to be that guy?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there's
Yeah.
like there's times like I'm in my office and I'm in there, you know, like losing my shit about something and just, you know, just being
We've been
that
there
guy.
too.
Yeah.
Been there, done that
And it's
too.
like that. So like that's not healthy. And it's
Monday.
Yeah, right. And
People
but I mean,
seen
it's
it.
not like that. That's horrible, right?
Yeah.
I wouldn't tolerate that from an employee. So like, why should my employees have to tolerate that from me?
Yeah.
So I think it's one of these things where I'm just really,
That's fair.
you know, I'm really that's kind of where we're at in the business. Is I'm just really focusing on like, you know, trying to give them as much autonomy. You know, again, going back to like building out systems, like refining all of our systems to make sure that everybody has the information and the ability to do their job really well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then just kind of continue to take a like more and more of a back seat. And
That's
it's
awesome.
And it's a transition. Like it's not going to
Yeah.
happen over. Like I don't know. Like there's something about our industry. It's like if I knew starting over like what I know now, like I don't know that I would go into this industry because
Right.
it's so hard.
It is.
Like
Yeah.
and every single job we do is custom.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like you're doing the same thing over and over and over again, but it's new and different every time.
It's literally like you're on a hamster wheel.
Yeah.
But here's the thing: I came from engineering. That was like so like I got to the point where like I made good money, but it was like a means to an end. Like what was it? It was a means to like a 1 week vacation, or
Yeah.
you know, or like I had just had that's what I had to look forward to. You know, like and those types of things where I feel like I have a lot more freedom now than I did, even though it's still I work more than I ever have in my entire life, but I still feel like there's an entrepreneur is gonna bust his ass, but at least you can do other things. You can
Yeah.
be more free, I guess.
I don't
in
think
I
that
don't
I
know.
feel where you're at right now,
Yeah.
Jeremy. Like, I feel like my department, it's very much like I'm still in the grind of it all. And
Yeah.
like 1 month ends and we're excited for a day. And then it's like the new month starts and
Yeah.
got to get right back on it. Like, I'm very much in that. So like, I'm looking forward to finding a way to disconnect from that a little bit as we settle in.
It's learning to trust.
'Cause
the
when I
people
was
to do
in
it with
Snatch
being
and
out there. Yeah.
in my old business, I was there where I could detach and I could go golf and I could go do my things. I
Yeah.
could go to the beach. I looked at my old goals and it was like one of my goals for 2022 was excessive beach time. Like this year I've been one time, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
so what happened to me in those couple
Well,
of
and
years?
I think the thing is too is it's like
You started over.
Yeah, it started over.
You started over. That's really what happened.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think like that would be so hard. Like what you all are going through right now. I mean, there's a lot, and so that's part of it too. It's like when I'll come to these shows and I look at this and I'm like, oh, that would be so cool, but it's like, but yeah, it's really kind of looking at like balancing the risk versus the reward and the
Yeah.
amount of time. Like the reason we have the space that I'm going to build out the print studio is because one of the hospitals we worked for, like they lost their vendor for medical scrubs. And I was like, oh, well,
Yeah.
we'll get into medical scrubs. And like, and it turned into this like huge process. And like, we went through the process and like, we had to bid for the job and we had to jump through all these hoops to like get set up with the right, like getting blank medical scrubs is not like getting an account with SNS and Alpha.
Oh,
Broker.
really?
Right.
Oh,
Yeah.
no. It's like you have to, like we had to have a retail space and you have to do, you know, like a minimum spend. And like, we were going to have like
Wow.
100,000 in inventory. And, you know, like there's a lot to it. And, but we were going to do it because we were like, okay, well, we'll have this anchor account, and then this is a model we can duplicate with other
Yeah.
hospitals we
Right.
work with. And I mean, we probably spent 8 months on that, and not to mention like a lot of money.
Yeah.
And we had like marketing and employees and all this, and then it blew up in our face like right last minute. And it's just one of those things where, like, to me, it was like a really like a big lesson. I was like, so I could have taken like what else could I have done in like those last 8 months?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like I could have just spent more time with my family, or like I could have been doing something that I enjoy. And it's just like I'm 44, and I'm kind of at the point where like both my kids will be out of high school in 5 years.
Yeah, you're at the same place I am with kids.
Yeah.
They'll be into college, and it's just like, and I'm like, okay, so if one of them steps up and shows an interest, you know, then we can have that conversation and see if that makes sense. But otherwise, like, you know, like I'm not really interested in trying to. I had that identity crisis before of like, oh, we're gonna build this amazing company and we're gonna like take over the world, and like now it's more like, you know, we're providing like a really good living income for X amount of people.
Yeah.
And like we have this thing, it's very like,
and that's admirable.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's where that's again, we got to be comfortable with that. Like we
Well, yeah,
can't.
and
it's
and
you know,
it's-
you're
and it's
making
great.
choices that you got to be comfortable with.
Yeah.
Well, and like when someone asked me the other day, they're like, I was giving this presentation, they're like, well, so like when did you feel like you'd made it, or like and I was like, well, it's like I don't know that
Really made it.
do feel that way. And I said, but I can tell you that like what brings me joy is like when I have I just had my screen department guy just got married, and he was able to take a week off to like go on his honeymoon,
Yeah.
like paid vacation. And then you know, like one of my employees buys a new car, or they put a down payment on a house, or like, you know, like, and you feel like you've built a business that provides the income and the.
Well, we just witnessed that this week with the review for BJ,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like our artist guy, he broke down and started crying. We were talking to him, like he was tearing up, like, and he's like, I'm just emotional about this stuff.
Were you like,
I
you're
can
fired?
tell.
And he starts like,
No, he's like, I
No.
can tell that you guys care, like, and that was really cool. Like that touched me, you know,
Yeah.
to have him do that. Now I'm like, no, I can't fire him ever because
No.
he cried.
No. Well, if he
He's-
leaves, I leave. So.
Yeah, he's legit. He's
He's the
so
best
legit.
artist
So
in
we
the
moved
world.
him to salary.
yeah.
You got paid vacation. You don't have to worry about clocking in and clocking out anymore. And he just started tearing up.
Well, but it goes back
Like-
to like what you were talking about before, is like, you know, so getting to that point where you mentioned like trust. It's like, well, right. So, but that comes with people, and I think that's the thing that they talk. You know, you hear talked about a lot. Is it's like you can come to a show and you're like, oh, well, 150,000 for a press, like no big deal, because you can run the numbers and be like, oh,
Yeah.
we'll make it back. But that press means nothing if you don't have the people to run it. And it's just like, I think for me, it took a really long time as a business owner. I was so scared to like hire good people because I like kept telling myself that I couldn't afford good people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But like if you can get past that and pay people more than what you think they deserve, and you know, start building that team, like that's the reason why we have something where I feel like it's sustainable and we can maintain it, is because of those people.
Yeah.
Yeah, people mean a lot.
Yeah.
Well, Kyle, we could talk to you forever. You're a wealth of knowledge.
Yeah.
And
we have other appointments to be to and stuff.
No, for
that
sure,
to do,
yeah.
But
yeah. But thank you so much for being on the podcast. We'd love to have you on again sometime
Yeah,
and talk
and
about all the other
catch
things.
up on the other
you're
stuff. Like I
doing.
want to see how the art studio goes. I want to see how, you know,
Yeah, for sure.
what's up
We can
next.
talk solar panels.
We can talk solar panels.
Yeah.
Talk DTF. Like I know you just talk DTF, but I
Oh,
could
yeah.
talk DTF.
Yeah.
There's
for
a lot
sure.
of things we could pick your brain about. So, thanks for being on the show, brother.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thanks for listening, guys.